Hi everyone, this is Lori from the Crafting Auntie coming back with you with another project, and this is our criminal case file. So I have done a little bit of stamping on the front of this. I am going to be adding some more things to it on the outside. We're going to do some things on the inside here. And I did record this video, but I got no sound, so I had an issue with it. So I'm doing a voiceover right now just to be able to explain a little bit of what is going on. So we constructed the outside of this video. In this video, part one, we constructed the outside of the journal. And I added the criminal and case file separately off camera. And these are the Tim Holtz letters that I punched out. And I'm just showing you what I've done to the cover here. And I've also torn some paper that I had picked up at Hobby Lobby. And I have torn that and added it to the outside of the journal here. So I'm showing you that. And so today I wanted to work on IDing the outside of the cover. So I have picked out some things that I'm going to be adding on to this cover. And currently I am just going to add some splatter stamping to this. And just going to add that to the front and the back. I hadn't done it before. And I definitely wanted to add this. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just covering on the front and the back, adding some of that splatter stamping. And I think it just adds a vintage look, gives it a little bit more vintage character. And I also, on the outside of the cover, want to, the actual criminal file that I'm using a digital of is, he was incarcerated at Leavenworth, so I want to add that to the front of the cover. And I've worked on this picture of him off camera. I had used some of the Tim Holtz craft paper, and I sanded it and I grunged it up, and then I also grunged up the photo and I stitched around it. So all the way around it, I did that on here. And I want to put that onto the front. And that's going to label our gentleman's folder. His name is Lee Hayes. And I've added that to the top of this little ID card that's also going to go on the front. I also stitched around it using the craft cardstock also from Tim Holtz that's sandable. And then I'm also going to stamp on the front here, Leavenworth. And I thought about embossing it, but I decided not to. I decided to go ahead and just do a stamping on it so it still looked more vintagey. So it's not super noticeable, but it's there. So that's what I'm getting ready to do right here. And I'll be gluing these on with art glitter glue. And usually on these photos from Tim Holtz, they're a little bit glossy. So I am making sure I put enough glue on here and making sure I have enough around on the stitching as well. And then I'm just going to press it on here and hold it down for a few seconds to make sure that it completely adheres. So that's what I'm doing here. And then we'll do the same thing for the label piece that I have also on the front. And I'm probably talking about, because it didn't record, I'm probably talking about some of the grunging around it. And with the splatter stamping. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue on this piece onto the front as well. And using again art glitter glue and putting this right to centering as best I can on the front. Pressing it down good, making sure it adheres. And also lifted it up to make sure I had centered it. And then next I will be adding on Leavenworth, and I used just the ground espresso distress oxide ink just so that it's there, but it's not real predominant, making it look more old and vintage. So I'm just going to make sure I put enough ink on here so that it will at least show up somewhat. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm centering it as best I can. Put that on the top in the center and holding it down to make sure it's straight. And this, I'm using clickable stamps, and you can find these on Amazon. See, it's not very noticeable there, but I didn't want it to be really bright and predominant. So that's why I did it that way. So you can see it a little bit there. And so now on the inside, I am pulling out some papers that I found from digital kit that I will link below in the description box. And there's all kinds of detective type items on this digital paper. So I am going to be cutting the pieces to cover the inside of each side of the journal. So, and then on the flaps, I'll be doing something a little bit different. So I'm just going to be also creating an ID card that will be going on one of the flaps. So I'll be using another one of the photos from Photomatic. I had bought in a couple of different packages. I had one, and I picked up two more just to make sure I had at least 3 of the same photo that I could use. The front, then the ID card, and then possibly inside somewhere. Here I am showing you what I did. I took some old slides that I took apart, took out the old film that was in it, and then I printed much smaller a digital that I had gotten from Seven Plaza from Margaret, and it's just some advertisements, and I made them much smaller, and I glued those on the inside of these slides. So they will end up going into an evidence folder as evidence, even though it doesn't say anything really about the evidence, but I thought it would at least portray it. And I'll do something on the outside of those as well to make them look, I'm not sure if I'll add snippets or what, but I'll decorate those differently so they look more vintage. So here I am getting ready to tear the paper to size. So I'm just laying it down there, and I am adding my Tim Holtz ruler to it so I can tear it. So I'm tearing it here, and that's on one side, and I was going to use the other side, but I decided to change and use a whole different page and cut it the same way so I didn't lose too much of the picture. So I took another one and I did the same thing. I trimmed it down to fit inside the covers. And so I am finishing trimming that here, and I'm just making sure that I have it wide enough and not too wide so that it'll fit nicely in there. So I'm tearing that here. And then there's a little bit at the top, so I need to trim that down. So I am going to just turn them kind of fold it over and turn them on the side, and I'm just trimming off. It looks like about 1/2 inch, and I'm doing that on both of these inside cover pages. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I will be rounding the corners where the corners are rounded on the journal. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing, using the piece that I had just tore off of the other one, and I'm going to be trimming it here. Typically I would turn this around the other way, but I just had it all lined up, so I went ahead and trimmed it here. So both panels will fit in the journal nicely. And now I'm going to round the corners just on the 2 sides that have rounded corners on the journal. So I'm doing both pages that way currently. And then I will be inking them up. So that will be next, also using ground espresso. So that's what I'm doing here now. And I just like making sure that it's grungy enough so that everything matches nicely. So that's what I'm doing here, making sure all the corners as well. And I'll do the other page the same way. So just using the ground espresso, distress oxide, just giving that a grungy look. And now that that has been grunged up, I'll be taking the art glitter glue again, and we'll be gluing down both of these panels. So turning them over and making sure I add the glue on. But first I'm showing you a piece of map that I decided to add into the journal. And I found that this gentleman was incarcerated in Tennessee. So I picked out a piece of map that has Tennessee on it, and I'll probably put a circle on where I think he might have been incarcerated, just as something to go into the file. So here I am gluing down the paper on the inside. So just adding enough glue to make sure it sticks well and to the edges. So doing this side, lining it up, making sure I have it even as best I can. And again, I will link below everything that I have used so far, and also these digitals and anything else that I may be using. I will also, I had gotten a comment that some was missing on part 1. So I have added the paper link, and I have also added the stencil link. At first I couldn't find the stencil, so I put a like stencil, but then I happened to find it, so I added it as well. I will be adding it to this video as well in the description box. So now the papers are glued down, and these are the pockets that will be on here. And so I will be covering them eventually, but for now I can go ahead and glue these pockets down. So that's what I'm doing here. And sorry I get a little bit off camera when I'm doing some of the gluing because of the size of the journal. So I'm just making sure that those are glued down very well. And I'll be doing the other side now. And just making sure that that side is glued down well. And these will hold hopefully some envelopes that will be for evidence. That's my plan anyway. And I will cover the outside of those eventually. And they will have a couple of cards that will go on them as well, but I do want to put something behind them, so I'm just kind of showing you. One is a police I think it's like a suspect information and a police information. And my plan is to do some stamping on that, of course, with his name, which is Lee Hayes, and adding a bunch of information. I did find his case number or his ID number, so I'll be adding all that on there. So I'll be doing some stamping before I actually put them on. So I'm just kind of showing what I will be doing eventually, not on this video, but possibly on the next one. I'm hoping to do this in 3 videos, but I think it's probably going to go to maybe 4 because we still have some things to enter in. So now I'm going to work on the ID card that's going to go on the outside. And again, I'm sorry for being a little bit off camera there, but I'm measuring this out to see how I want to have it on here and do I want the same size or not. So I am just taking a look at how I want to put these on here. So currently I am going to be adding on this little bit that I cut off of one of the other digitals I had, which has some information on there about the criminal. And I'm going to be trimming it down so the ID card will be a little bit smaller. So I am currently doing that now. I know it's a little off camera because my paper trimmer is a little bit long. So I'm doing the front piece and I'm also doing the back piece. There will be 2 pieces that will be put together. So I've just trimmed those down, and then I'm going to start distressing them with the sanding. So the back piece is just a piece of regular craft color cardstock. The front piece is a piece from Tim Holtz Craft distress paper that is sandable. And I'm just kind of getting a feel for how this ID card will look when it's all put together. And so that's what I'm doing here. And then I'm showing how this little bit of information will be put on here. So, and I did think possibly I might stamp the Leavenworth on there, but at the end of the day, I didn't do that. After the stitching was on, because this will be stitched coming up, I didn't need it. So I'm sanding it here now and distressing it, being careful not to tear the thin edges. So I'm just adding the distressing all over it. Just giving it a good sand. And then I'll be sanding the edges and the inside of the frame as well. So I'm just being careful not to tear it because some of the edges are a little bit narrow. And moving away all the dust. And then I'm going to go ahead and use some more Distress Oxide in Ground Espresso, and I'm adding that all over the front of the ID card and the edges as well, all the way around, and including that frame part that's cut out. Trying to keep this in camera so you can see it all. So just adding the distressing all the way around it. And grunging it up as much as I can just to make sure it looks old and vintagey. So I'm just adding a little bit more distressing. And then on the photo, I am going to be folding it and creasing it, just so that it gives it an old look like the front one that I have done. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just creasing it and folding it, getting some of the creases on there really well as best as you can. And then I'm going to add also the Distress Oxide on there the same way, grunging that up a bit. And just on the face part, you don't need to do the edges because they won't be seen at all. So just adding that all over the face. And now I'm going to be putting it together and clamping it, and then I'm going to be stitching all around it. And I'm going to be stitching the front piece to the back piece. So here you see it stitched. I went around the actual photo and around the outside of the ID tag. And here is where I'm going to be adding on this piece that I cut off of one of the items in the digital kit, which had some information, but it didn't have the actual name on there. So I thought it was perfect to be able to use it for his ID card, which just gives some information about the prisoner itself. Height, weight, different things in there of what they would have on a prison record. So I'm just scrunching it up a bit and also adding some splatter stamps to it and to the ID card here. So I'm doing that, and I'm okay with getting it on the photo as well, just giving it a vintage look. So there's the splattering on there, and now I'm going to be gluing on this piece, this information piece. So art glitter glue again, and I'll be gluing that down. So here is where I'm adding it to the ID card, making sure it's straight. And then it's going to go on the inside of the flap on the left side. And here I am talking about I want to cover the paper. I picked this paper up at Hobby Lobby, and I originally wanted to put this on the outside, which is where I'm measuring it for, but I inadvertently put it on the inside. And so now what I'm going to do is measure, and I'm going to cut these pieces. And then I did inadvertently put it on the inside here, and I ended up putting some different paper on the outside where the ID tag, which actually looks much better. So I'm just measuring to see how big I need the pieces. And this is a 12 by 12. It's not a real heavy paper that I got at Hobby Lobby. It's just a grungy look. And I'm cutting this at 3 inches and by 6 inches. So out of this one strip, I am able to get both the sides of the pockets cut out of this. And I apologize, this is off camera, but my paper trimmer is just a little bit long. So here's my 2 pieces that were going to go on the outside that ended up on the inside, which actually I do like better. So here I am just rounding the corners of where the round part is on these flaps, and I'm doing it on both sides. And here's where I kind of got messed up on where I was putting it, but in reality it turned out fine. So I'm just going to glue these down now, and I do this on both flaps on the inside, and I'm putting this down. Making sure it's straight. And then I'm doing it on the other side as well. And I think after I glued this on is where I realized that these were going to go on the outside and ended up on the inside. But I like the coloring much better. So that worked out good. And because I realized what I did wrong, I decided to take this paper And I just cut the one piece to go on the left side. I would need another piece to go on the other side, so I wasn't going to do it on this video. I'll do it on the next one or off camera and then show you the next video. So I'm just measuring what I need here. Again, 3 inches by 6 inches. And then I will also be rounding the corners and grunging it up as well. And I liked actually the way this color looked with the ID tag on it. I think it looked much better. So I'm just going to grunge it up. And again, I'm using ground espresso, distress oxide, trying to get it to be kind of as dark as what's on the paper. It's not going to be quite as dark, but I'm grunging it up as much as I can here. So I'm adding some more, just to kind of give it that dark look on the edges. And then I need to round the corners. So I'm going to do that. And this is Corner Rounder by We Are Memory Keepers. If you don't have one, I've had it for quite a while and I've used it off and on, and I've really liked using it for the projects that I have been working on. So again, I am adding art glitter glue to this. And I'm gluing it down, making sure it's even. And you can see here how much nicer the ID tag goes with this color. And I'm talking about making that into a pocket, but before I do the pocket, I want to add some brads on all 4 corners. So I'm picking out some brads here that will match in the color. And so I'm using kind of a dark bronze color, vintagey color. So I'm picking out 4 of those. And then we'll just be using a micro punch to punch the holes on all 4 corners. So here I'm getting the micro punch, and then I'm going to punch on all 4 corners, but I don't want to punch on the thread that I have sewn. So I'm just carefully punching away from the stitching and all 4 corners here. So that's what I'm doing here. I just think the metal pieces add something to a project, and in this case it definitely adds to this. So when I'm adding the brads in, I'm making sure when I spread them out that I'm angling them so that when they're glued down, nothing is peeking out. So you can see here I've kind of done it on an angle, and I'm going to do that with the rest of them. I'm going to trim some of the threads off at the back, and I trimmed down some of the threads on this in the front so it wouldn't be so long, but I am keeping some of that threads hanging from the stitching. And now I'm going to add the rest of the brads to the ID card, making sure that when I spread them that I angle them and make sure that they're pressed down good. And you can see here how it's starting to really add to the ID card. And just making sure that I angle them. Last one's going in now. And I'm adding that, and I'm angling. So now it looks really good. I think the brad on all 4 corners adds something to it. and I am getting ready to glue it down here. And I don't know what I want to do on the inside, but I think it might be this map that I showed a little bit earlier. And the way I want to fold it, I want to be able to fold it so that I can pull it out. So I'm going to glue on the ID card as a pocket. So I'm doing just 3 sides. And I'm just making sure I put enough glue on there. And centering it and gluing it onto that flap. Pressing it down good, making sure that it stays. And then there's a pocket there. Don't know what I'll put in there yet, but I wanted the ability to have a pocket, to maybe tuck something in there. So there is the ID card. And I don't know yet what I'm doing on the right-hand side, but I will get that figured out. And so I'm just talking about what we've done. So we've added those papers on the inside. And then this map, I'm just folding it a different way so that when it's glued down, I can pull it up and you can see Nashville or Tennessee, which is where he is coming from. And right here, I get off camera and I don't realize it. Now I realize it. So I'm trying to decide how I want to maybe put a circle and red around a location there in Tennessee, just to show something. And then when it's glued down, I did a clock hand on the journal I did last year to hold it in place, and I might do the same thing. So I'm talking about that here, and then when you can open it up, here's where I'm showing how you can open it up. I apologize for being off camera in some of the areas here in this video. So anyway, I am going to probably be adding this on, whether off camera or on the next video. And I've just got to figure out how I want to actually put the clock hand on there. So I'm talking about that here, and then I'm just going over what we did do today. We did the papers on the inside. We did the ID card and created a pocket. And we also finished the front here. And we added his photo and his information here. And put Leavenworth up there at the top. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys give it a try and you enjoy the video. I will be back out on Friday with another portion of this video and have some answers to what's going in these pockets, what's going on the flaps. We'll also need to add in the papers that I have printed from the digital kit. And we'll be doing some more decorating, and I'm not sure if this is going to finish up on Friday or if it's going to go over to Monday, but one way or the other, we are going to get this finished. So I hope you guys will join me on Friday and for the next video, and you guys all have a good rest of the week, and I'll be coming back to you again on Friday. God bless you all, and you all have a great day. Bye.